Why are my emotions so stupid? It's frustrating that sometimes it feels like my emotions control me. Maybe I yelled at a friend when I didn't mean to. Maybe I cried when I watched a cat video. Maybe I get really depressed anytime that I read anything about the coronavirus. You know, God created us with these emotions and we're meant to feel things deeply. And it's awesome because we can also feel joy and happiness, but we can also feel pain and sorrow. But sometimes if we're not careful, our emotions can control us. Stress and anxiety and depression, maybe all three of them at once, tend to choke us. And if we don't have a good idea of where those emotions are coming from, they can strangle us. But God has provided a way out. God created us, again, with emotions to feel things deeply, but He also created us with self-control. So when we are losing ourselves to our emotions, we're not only setting ourselves up for failure, we're also going against God's design. God has freed us to be able to experience life on a deeper level than what we're doing. Proverbs 27, 1-4 talks about how we can ruin our lives if we don't know how to control our emotions. Let's read it together. Proverbs 27, 1-4 says, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let another praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Wrath is cruel, anger is overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy?" So what emotions do you see right there? You see overconfidence and pretending like you know what the future holds, thinking that you're in control. You see self-promotion, like bragging about yourself. You see bitterness in holding on to anger from the past. And then you also see jealousy, which he says that jealousy is worse than wrath or anger. So how is jealousy worse than this? If you're familiar with the 10 Commandments, it's actually the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet, which means to be jealous of, to want something that somebody has. And it's not just a physical thing, it could be a mental thing, it could just be a life, wanting something that is not yours or wanting to be someone else than who God created you to be is a deep, deep sin. God warns us over and over again not to mess with it because guess what? Jealousy is worse than anger or wrath. Why? Because anger or wrath, most of the time it's reactive to something that you think is bad, that you are reacting against that bad thing or that wrong thing. But guess what? Jealousy is reacting to something that is good for another person. So if you're unable to be happy for another person, if you can only feel jealousy when something good happens to someone, there is some deep sin in your life that you need to repent of, that you need to give over to Jesus so that He can heal you. I mean, think about it. The very first sin that we see in the Bible, and Adam and Eve wanted something that wasn't supposed to be theirs. And then their son, Cain, killed their other son, Abel, because he was jealous. This sin has deep roots in our history. It burrows itself into our minds and our hearts until the pain overwhelms us. But the good news is that Jesus has freed us from this. He's freed us from living a life that's comparing to other people. That is wasting our time. Anytime that we're scrolling on social media and seeing somebody's life, all that we're seeing is somebody's best. And if we think that their life is better than our life, we're not seeing ourselves through God's eyes because God created us all equal. After all, we're all sinners that fall short of God's expectations, but Jesus met those expectations on our behalf. When our faith and our belief is in Jesus, then there's nothing else that can satisfy us more than knowing what Jesus did on behalf of us. And when we live life with Jesus, we can experience true joy and true peace, true emotions. And when we worship God, He wants us to have emotions. Emotions are good. God created us to have them, but we can't let them control and dictate our lives. God created your emotions, and He wants you to use them to love Him and to love others. Those are truly some words we can live by.